FoodTruckr School is now in session. Episode 8, let's do it. What's up, food truckers? This is your host, Pat Flynn, and I'm here to help you take your food truck business to the next level. Whether you're just starting out or you're an expert or you've been doing this for a while, this is the show for you. Our special guest today isn't actually somebody who owns a food truck. This is somebody who inspects food trucks, and a lot of them. This is Matt Finkenbiner over at the Minnesota Department of Health, and he's going to help us all understand exactly what the process is like in order to get your truck approved by a city so that you can start selling your awesome food on the streets of your favorite hometown. So let's all welcome Matt Finkenbiner, who, I ask him a ton of questions about what to do and what not to do. You're just going to learn so much. So here we go. Here's Matt. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. You are awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Now, I think, a lot of people, they get excited about food trucks, and, you correct me if I'm wrong, but have you noticed a sort of a boom in the industry, or a lot more people getting interested in the food truck industry on your end there in Minnesota?
Sure. I think that food trucks are just getting a lot more attention, whether it's in Minnesota or nationwide. I just think that there's a lot of media coverage. I think that social media has a lot to do with it. Obviously, there's TV shows out there that are chronicling the lives of food trucks. So I just think that it's kind of on the forefront of everybody's mind. So I definitely think that it's a little bit more popular than it was years ago.
Right. And with this buzz comes a lot of people who see these dreams, see the amazing lifestyle and have dreams of having a successful food truck, but they don't really understand everything that's involved. And a lot of people who I've spoken to who are interested just think they could pull up to any city, open their doors, and start selling food, which is obviously not the case. So I'm here to ask you a bunch of questions to help us all understand what are some tips you have for us when getting a food truck started. So the first question I want to ask you is, really, what's the most common mistake food truck owners make when getting their truck looked at? I'm sure you've gone through several cases, and not all of them have passed the first time. What are some of the most common mistakes people are making right now?
Sure. So one of the biggest mistakes that a food truck owner or operator can make is not doing their homework. Just because one truck might be good in one state or one city does not make it good in another state or a city. So first of all, just doing your homework, knowing who your health code regulators are in the area that you plan to operate is the number one thing that you need to look at. You need to find out what food code regulations that you need to adhere to, and make sure that you've got the right equipment to adhere to those codes. Right. Not only just doing that homework of knowing where to turn and what codes they need to apply to, it's trying to do too much out of a food truck can also get a person into trouble. If their menu is 50 items long, that can really be cumbersome on how much equipment they need, how much prep time they may need to do. It just really hinders their process, and that's a lot of what we try to do when we look at what their operation, when they're doing their plan. We look at their process, how they plan to go from source to their food to basically to the plate. Mm-hmm. So we try and really try and dwindle down what it is that they're serving, really try and get a good handle on what their process is. So if someone, has this real big dream that they want to serve food out of a food truck, them jumping in head first and not knowing all of the processes to get the food from the butcher, the grocery store onto the person's plate can really, really, put the brakes on their operation really quick.
Right. So they need to know all the intricacies of running a food truck first before coming to you. Typically, when in that process do people sort of submit all their stuff to you? I would have to have not just an idea. I'd have to have. Do people have trucks at the point of which they hand off their stuff to you?
We see it both ways. We've seen it where someone has a dream that they want to open up a food truck, and that they contact us right away. They tell us what it is that they want to do, and we get them a lot of information. Our website is chock full of fact sheets, construction guides, all different kinds of items there that will kind of help them through that process. They certainly have to do their homework on the kind of the front end and figure out where it is they want to operate. But once they get to that point where they know that that's what they want to do, we see it both ways, where they maybe bought a truck, they might have an idea. It certainly helps us in the process if maybe they haven't purchased it yet, maybe they've got an idea. Again, every state, every city is different as far as what they require. In Minnesota, we require NSF equipment, which is all commercial grade equipment. So something that's good in one state might not transfer over to the other. So buying a food truck from someone that did hamburgers in one state and then driving it over to another and expecting to show up at the health department and getting a license doesn't always work. So it's definitely trying to figure that out. But one of the biggest pieces of information that we need when we're reviewing that plan or their process, it's the menu. The menu is going to drive the equipment that they need, whether they need X amount of coolers to hold everything. And when I say cooler, I'm referring to a refrigerator, freezers, grills. Do they need an exhaust hood? That menu is really going to dictate all of the equipment and all the space that they're going to need. It's going to dictate how many sinks they're going to need in their food stand. So that menu really is the driving force behind it all. So, to say that they absolutely have to have everything in their hand before they come to us, that wouldn't say is absolutely true. They can go both ways. They might have contacted a food truck manufacturer. They might have a friend that has one, but the sooner that they can get their local health department involved in the process, I think the better off that they'll be.
Right. And so would you recommend somebody, even when they're just starting out, to just at least make contact with a representative of a health department in the city that they're looking to serve and just to sort of build that relationship?
Absolutely. The oversharing of the information and what they want to do is a great thing. All of the local public health agencies and state public health agencies and the health departments, again, they're chock full of information. There's lots of regulators out there that have tons of years of experience that will help them kind of guide through the process, make it a little less intimidating, maybe be able to get them some fact sheets so they can, sit down and actually talk about it with their business partners and so they can get this plan together. Again, because there's so many agencies out there that regulate these food trucks and food stands, there's a lot of misinformation that's out there as well. So definitely contacting, your local public health agency is going to be your first call, definitely.
Right. I mean, I think that would save a lot of people time. And thank you for sharing that. It's very, very useful information. Can you shed some light on sort of what the process is like for you? Like, can you maybe take us through a typical submittal and what you do on your end? I mean, you don't have to give like every single detail, but just so we can understand what's in it for you or what the process is like for you.
Sure. So in the state of Minnesota, we call it a plan review. So any food truck that has not ever been licensed in the state of Minnesota will go through what we call our plan review process. It can take up to 30 days to get through the process. That's basically from plan submittal until it is assigned to one of our plan reviewers and they make contact with that submitter. Depending on how quickly we can gather the information, if we need to make any changes, that process, again, can take 30 days, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a few weeks less. It really just depends on how thorough the plan is and what it is that they're doing, how quick they can get back to us. As far as the process, again, we sit down. The first thing that we do, we look at the menu. The menu is going to drive, the whole plan review process. We're going to look at what it is that they want to serve, if it's going to even be feasible. We don't want them to have something that's so complicated that it has so many processes to it that it's just not feasible in the small confines of a food truck.
Right.
So after we've looked at their menu, we then look at the equipment and the setup that they've chosen. If they, we want them to submit some kind of a schematic, a drawing of some kind that shows us all of the equipment. We ask them that they submit specification sheets, which are just little cut sheets on every piece of equipment that they're going to have, what they're going to use. So then we basically, in our heads, we go through that process. Okay, if they're going to do hamburgers, where are they going to store it cold? Where are they going to cook it? How are they going to plate it? How is it going to get to the person? We look at all of the food equipment, and then we also look at how are they going to carry their water? Where are they going to wash their hands? Where are they going to wash their dishes? Are they going to use fruits and vegetables? So that all plays into the process of how many sinks they need and how big their wastewater tank needs to be. And we look at water heaters and we look at just a real wide variety of items. We go through that We look at the finishes as far as floors, walls, ceilings to make sure that they're smooth, easy cleanable, that they meet our requirements. So once we've done all of that, we've made contact with the submitter. It's usually by phone and by email. We've contacted each other. We'll draft what we call a plan review letter. We'll send that letter to them. They might have some very specific details in there, what maybe might need to be modified. They might need a splash guard on a hand sink, some little tidbits here and there. Once they've got their food truck then constructed, so maybe after they get that letter, they then put in that purchase order to that food truck company. Once they have it in their possession, they're ready to go. Before they do any kind of food operation, they'll actually meet with one of our field inspectors, whether it's the person that reviewed their plan or someone that lives closer to where their home or where their base is going to be. We will meet them, and they will basically set up their food truck without the food, but they will set it up. We'll come and do a walkthrough.
Oh, wow. So you actually go into the truck and sort of do a check from there.
Absolutely. So we go there and we basically walk through the process again with them. We kind of look at everything that we looked at in the plan, but we see it firsthand. We look at it in person. We talk to them about how they're going to operate, where they intend to operate. Once we've done that and everything meets our standards, they've met what we've asked them to do in the letter, we then issue them a license at that point. In Minnesota, our current licensing system is a lot like your vehicle tab. We place a sticker on the inside of the food truck, and then once they're stickered, then they're free to move about the state.
Now, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, do I have to get those things renewed? And I know it's going to be different for every state, perhaps as far as frequency, but do we have to go and resubmit something later on in Minnesota, for example, to make sure that we're still upholding those standards?
Correct. So the license is good for 1 year. So every year they're going to reapply for that license. That they're not going to be re-inspected every year to have that license, but they are going to be inspected as they're operating. But as of right now, if once you get your decal, you've been licensed, you'll get a license renewal on a yearly basis, and then you'll submit that just like you would any other, again, car registration or tab registration. You would submit that to us. Again, then we would do our follow-ups in the field.
Great. Perfect. Now, going back to the menu, obviously this is something that's very important. It drives the rest of the details of the truck and everything that's going to be in it. How detailed do you need that menu to be? Because I could just give you a menu that says, oh, fish tacos and chicken tacos, and that's it. Or do I have to actually tell you and give you sort of a procedure list on how it's going to be made and that whole thing?
So if you submit the menu and it says chicken tacos, fish tacos, beef tacos, that's one of the questions that our plan reviewers will ask. What type of fish would you like to serve? Where do you plan on getting this? What's the source? Are you doing mahi? Are you going to do escalar? What are you planning to do as far as your fish? What are your sources? If they say we're just going to do off the truck, they're going to do Vandecamp's frozen fish, then we move along and move to the chicken, to the beef. We're looking at approved sources, so it's got to come from an approved wholesaler. It's got to come from a grocery store. They can't take in their own free range cattle for personal slaughter and then serve that up in a food truck. So the menu doesn't need to be real specific. Every single item, lettuce, pickles, onions. So we're going to ask those questions. We're going to definitely ferrule that out. We're going to need to know if they plan on doing fruits and vegetables, because they'll need to have sinks to wash it. But we're going to definitely ferrule out that. Where is it coming from? What is the source? How do you plan on preparing it? Wide range, as you can imagine. I mean, some menus we're going to do hamburgers. So that conversation is a lot longer. It's what kind of hamburgers do you plan on serving? Is it a California burger, cheeseburgers? And just really try and get a good idea of what it is that they want to serve on a day-to-day basis.
Beautiful, beautiful. One of the last questions I have for you, Matt, is are there any, you're doing a number of different trucks over the course of a month or a year perhaps. Is there one or two things that just every truck seems to get wrong or make a mistake on, or red flags that just seem to keep popping up that, maybe if you were to address here could help everybody out?
Sure. So a lot of it's our health inspections aren't just looking at temperatures, that hot food's hot, cold food is cold. I think everybody grasps that concept, the concept of clean, hand washing, all that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is that as a food truck owner, you want not only yourself, but everyone else that works with you to know the proper processes, to know the risk process that's associated with whatever it is that you're serving. So if you're serving hamburger, you need to know that your risk is E. coli and how high you need to cook that hamburger to cook the E. coli to a safe level. You need to know those risks that are associated with the chicken. If it's salmonella, how you're going to store it. So it's more of having every employee trained on all of those risk processes, those risk management procedures, not only hand washing, but why are we hand washing? Because there's potential that there's salmonella on our hands because we just handled chicken. Mm-hmm. So we definitely try and do a lot of outreach. We definitely try and do a lot of education when we do our inspections. Again, it's not just the physical facility itself and the cold temperatures, hot temperatures, but a lot of it is a question and answer period where we ask them, how do you get from point A to point B? And what do you do in between? What do you do with your food at the end of the day? Do you do large events? Do you small events? And we really just try and get a good feel for how they handle their operation. We want them to have good managerial control on their operation, so they should know the ins and outs. And if there's partners involved, everyone should know. I mean, whoever's involved in it, top to bottom, should know everything.
Do you test that? Like, do you give them a written test, or is it just an oral thing, or is the fact that they're there and they're being educated by you enough?
It's just like the conversation that we're having right now, Pat. We just try and have a nice open dialogue and just ask them questions. Oh, I see that you're having hamburgers. Where do you guys get it from? If they say it's from, the local wholesaler, great. Okay, so do they come fresh or do they come frozen? They come fresh. What do you cook them to? If they say well done, then we start asking them a little bit more questions. Mm-hmm. Well, what is well done? What temperatures do you need to get that to? Why is it important? So it's more of an open dialogue. We just want to generate that kind of that question and answer period, and hopefully pique their interest that they might pick our brain a little bit and ask us questions while they have us in their truck.
Right, and it seems like you guys are willing to work with trucks who may not be quite there yet, not just nope, you don't pass, goodbye, try again later.
Absolutely. No, we are definitely there to protect the public health, and if they have a healthy food truck and they are serving the food correctly, cooking it correctly, it's a win-win for everybody. Sure. They're going to have people come back to their food truck, and we're going to have healthy Minnesotans. So we're there to make sure that they're doing everything safe, but we're definitely not going to try and put a padlock on the door and say, you're done.
Right.
See you later. It's how can we get this to work? What are the steps that we're missing? We're definitely going to try and work with all of those operators.
Beautiful. That's good to hear. So everybody listening, your health department's there to help. They are willing to work with you, but try to make their life easier too, and think about these things we talked about in today's episode. Matt, thank you so much. Any final tips for, about anything related to food trucks for someone who's just getting started to try and make their life a little bit easier?
I mean, I guess my final thought would be this, that no question is a dumb question. The only dumb question is an unasked one. Again, to contact, whether it's a local public health, your state public health, whatever agency that you may have contact with, whether it's the FoodTruckr website, somewhere where you can at least start to ferret out some of that information, to not just jump in head first, to really do your homework, to ask those questions, to make those relationships and those networking, make some networking folks out there that are going to be able to help you out in the end to answer those questions, and that you've got those numbers when the question does come up.
Yeah, and people are more than willing to help out. I mean, especially existing food truck owners, they only want that industry to become better and more represented. So, Matt, thank you so much. This is Matt Finkenbiner from the Minnesota Department of Health. Thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Pat. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Yep.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Matt Finkenbiner over at the Minnesota Department of Health. A ton of value, a ton of education in that episode. And I think, of course, it's important to realize that health code regulations in Minnesota are going to be different in your hometown or your city. So just please make sure to do like what Matt recommended. It's, make contact with those who you're eventually going to be dealing with. Once you start that relationship, it's just going to make that process much easier. It could be very stressful and a headache for a lot of people, but if you start that process early and you're smart about it, and you take a lot of the information Matt gave you today and take action with it, it's only going to help you do what you want to do faster, which is, of course, get on the streets of your city and help make people happy with your food. So thank you so much for your time today. If you had a second and you wanted to leave a review on iTunes, that would be amazing. Just look up FoodTruckr there on iTunes and leave a rating and review. It goes a long way for us. And of course, head on over to foodtruckr.com for more written information, more podcast episodes, and look forward to next week's, or in a couple weeks actually. We have an interview with a guy named Craig, who is not only running a successful food truck, but he's also established a successful catering business to go along with it. And we talk about how he's got that set up. But in addition to that, how he's also been able to create classes. He's teaching people in his community how to create his own food. And that can only create fans for life. So look out for that in a couple weeks. Thank you so much for your support. This is foodtruckr.com. My name is Pat Flynn. Take care. I'll see you later.